just want to give you a little bit of insight about where my head is at as I start this speech. It's daunting to follow the heroes and straight-up geniuses that have been on this stage earlier in the day. And I'm also in a kind of negotiation with my speech, because some of the things that people have said have caused me to question some of the premises that I started with. So what you're going to see is me kind of working that out as I'm talking to you. So I'm going to be reading a little bit just because I'm pretty nervous, and that gives me a sense of security. But I'm also going to be, as I said, kind of struggling with and negotiating how to incorporate the really powerful ideas of the previous speakers with some of my settled perspectives that I had at the beginning of this day. And again, that's just a testament to the power of the people who have held this stage before me. So my talk today is about technology in cities and how the inclusion conversation and the innovation conversations can be brought together. People are justifiably excited about the promise of new technology in cities. Autonomous vehicles, which Red Whitaker was talking about, have the promise to reduce the normalized carnage of tens of thousands of road deaths and injuries on our streets and our highways. Ubiquitous sensors can alert us to problems, pollution, and infrastructure breakdowns. Predictive algorithms can predict public safety or social services hotspots and help prevent harms before they happen. But with every gift technology gives us, it can also take something away. Autonomous vehicles could accelerate environmental harms and further widen social gaps within cities. Sensors can bring us into an uncomfortable world of constant surveillance. And algorithms literally encode the biases of the people who create them and can lead to life-altering decisions with very little transparency or recourse. The point is, technology is an accelerator. It will get us faster from point A to point B or C or X or Z. But technology will not tell us whether that's a journey worth making. That's a values question, not a technological question. So here's what I'm going to do for the next 12 minutes while I'm on this stage. First, I want to go into some detail about the opportunities that technologists and tech companies see in cities. And I may do it without the help of my slides. Second, I want to outline some of the ways that city makers can respond to maximize the benefits and minimize the harms of new technology. And third, I'm going to argue that the real promise of technology in cities is that it gives us a chance to double down on our humanity and come back to essential questions about how cities can do what they're good at, which is to support human flourishing. So the city of Toronto, like many cities around the world, is involved in an ambitious waterfront reinvention project. They're working on about 800 acres of an abandoned waterfront. Sidewalk Labs, which is a division of Alphabet, which most civilians know as Google, won the right to start the waterfront redevelopment. Has anybody here read Sidewalk Labs' vision for the Toronto waterfront? Anybody read the RFP? All right, there's a planning geek back there. I strongly recommend it. It's long, but don't be put off by that. It's beautifully illustrated, it's quite well written, but most importantly, it's a roadmap to the urban future. This is what a technology-enabled city could look like, not in the next 50 years, but in the next 5 or 10. Sidewalk Labs promises to deliver the integration of innovation, both physical and digital, across every aspect of urban life. They promise to, quote, create the city from the internet up. I don't have a strong opinion about whether what Sidewalk Labs proposes to do is great or awful. What I know is that it is a human endeavor, and so like all human endeavors, there will be some parts of it that are great, some parts of it that are awful, and a lot of things that are unexpected. And what I want to suggest today is some ways that cities can start to grapple, some tools and processes that cities can use to grapple with the unexpected. Sidewalk Labs' plan calls for new kinds of infrastructure. Their urban vision includes a distributed network of sensors collecting real-time data. They want to deploy new building techniques, new building codes, and new financing mechanisms. And they also imagine something that I think would, I guess, be like Google Pay for social services. It would be some kind of digital all-access pass for vulnerable people so that they could seamlessly integrate the services that the city is going to deliver to them. Sidewalk Labs imagines innovations in the energy grid, wastewater, solid waste, composting, noise and pollution monitoring, and mobility. And the digital platform that Sidewalk Labs proposes will define the rules, as they say, will define the rules for residents, administrators, and developers using and building atop the platform. So they're taking on themselves a significant governance role in the development of this area. They're going to be the ones setting the rules for how people and governments interact and behave. Sidewalk Labs is very clear that Toronto's existing rules and regulations cannot accommodate all of the things that they want to do. They'll need a new set of rules to create this technology-enabled future. Now, the Toronto waterfront is a very special case, right? It is not every place that is going to have this massive injection of technology at every possible level of city services infused in it. But elements of this fast-forward future are coming to cities across the country and around the world. The rules and relationships of today will not work for the city of tomorrow. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to people who've seen cities struggle with companies like Uber and Airbnb, or technologies like autonomous vehicles. Innovation in technology is going to require innovation in relationships. That means innovation in relationships within government, between government and companies, and most importantly, between government and residents. At the most practical level, people who work for city governments will have to collaborate across different departments. So that means criminal justice, working with zoning, infrastructure, housing. A lot of cities have created autonomous vehicle working groups, for example, to help cities come to some shared understanding of what autonomous vehicles can do and what they should not do in their cities. Governments also need to create new relationships with companies. Too often that relationship has been binary. It's been yes or no, it's been top-down and hierarchical, and companies have come to the table with a kind of take it or leave it attitude. But what if there was a new relationship in which cities came to the table with problems that they needed to solve, and companies responded with solutions and ideas rather than bluster and threats? Rhode Island, for example, has created a program called Innovation Lanes, where exactly this sort of thing is happening. States, regulators, and new companies are working together to solve problems and to figure out where the rules just don't work. Universities, research centers, and other private companies can also provide valuable help to cities, especially when city officials need to make decisions fast, or when there is a huge asymmetry of information between what government officials know and what companies know about particular technological advances. City leaders have to work with tech companies not as passive recipients of their innovations, but as respected market makers and co-creators. Most importantly, city governments need to create new relationships with residents to help grapple with this new technology future. If Jane Jacobs taught us anything, right? She taught us that cities are not made by experts. They're made by people. They're made by people who move through the city, who make decisions, who have desires, who have constraints. So if technology proposes to remake cities, we've got to put a brake on that. It's not technology itself, it's technology interacting with residents. Now, when I wrote this speech, I had some optimistic stuff in here about how government is the guardian of the public good, And so it's government that really needs to guide the interactions between cities and technology companies, that it's government that needs to set the values and the boundaries that kind of tell us where technology should head and where it ought not go. Hearing some of the experiences of people on the stage today, I'm a little less confident in making that assertion that government is the unquestioned guardian of the public good, but I think that only reinforces the point that people need to be more deeply involved in these decisions so that they themselves can hold government accountable. Because government's true source of power is not its ability to issue a permit or deny a permit. Government's true source of power is people. And so we need people at the table to keep government true to its highest aspirations. And now I've totally lost my place in my speech, so I'm probably just going to be winging it from here on out. When you bring people to the table, experts, non-experts, people from around the city, you get actually what innovation researchers will tell you is the key ingredient for innovation, which is different perspectives, different needs, and different approaches. Homogeneity is the enemy of innovation. So some people might say, what are we doing? Bringing all these non-technical experts. They're just going to slow things down. They're going to ask us impossible or irrelevant things. No. You get better innovation when you have different groups of people around the table. So what does it look like when you let people around the table? There are some examples. In Chicago and Miami, they've created civic user testing groups, which are groups of citizens that come together. Oh, somebody clapped? Does somebody know about the CUT group? No, all right, go look it up. All their stuff is online, and it tells you how to create one. These are folks who test out, who are paid to test out civic apps before they go live in civic websites. In New York City, the New York City's Neighborhood Innovation Lab brings together communities, educators, government, and technologists to identify local problems and test out and develop new solutions to them. What these approaches have in common is the insistence that technology has to serve people and not the other way around. People are very smart. People are the experts about what does and doesn't work for them in the city, and it's their ideas that should drive change. Thank you. Thank you for clapping. So that brings me to my third point, which is that technology should support our humanity. Fundamentally, cities are engines of prosperity and human flourishing. That's why they exist, and that's why they persist. Cities enable residents to get smarter and more skilled faster. And one of the things that I think is a kind of beautiful irony about technology in cities is that we thought that technology would make us into people who didn't need other people, right? We could be placeless. We could all go to our own mountain or valley or stream and work remotely and collaborate with people around the world. And to some extent we can, but research shows that patents more often are cite patents that were generated within the same metropolitan area. So what that shows is that inventors rely on inventors who are close to them. This is no surprise to people in this audience, right? Why is Pittsburgh an AV development hub, an autonomous vehicle development hub? Because Carnegie Mellon is here. Why is Carnegie Mellon great? Because people want to engage with people. People need each other. We need daily human interactions to flourish. So as we think about technology in cities, whether that's the vision of Sidewalk Labs or Uber or any of these other companies, we have to think about maintaining opportunities for human interaction. And even more radically, we have to think about valuing humans over machines and humans over efficiency. Thank you. When I was working on a project on cities and autonomous vehicles, for which Karina Ricks, I don't know if she's still in the room, was a wonderful source of information and inspiration. Somebody pointed out that there's a lot of things that drivers do that don't have to do with driving, right? They do a lot of sort of caretaking, right? They help you with your luggage. They might give you directions. They tell you about something that's going on in a city. They serve kind of concierge and security functions. The Lyft app, and I don't know if folks can see that on the screen, valorizes this, right? You can rate a driver for being friendly, for having good conversation. And those are skills that Siri and Alexa cannot match. So when we think about the transition to driverless cars, let's think about valuing them for their safety, but not imagining that we can squeeze all the costs out of having a driver. Let's value people doing what people do, and let's pay for it. My friend Eric Gordon talks about the importance of meaningful inefficiencies. And I have a couple of paragraphs in my speech, but I don't have time to go into it, about the importance of meaningful inefficiencies. I'll just allude to them. Think about a frustrating experience with government. Sometimes a frustrating experience with government is when there should be an efficiency and there's not, right? This is why people used to hate the DMV. It should be efficient and it wasn't. Now there's been great advances in a lot of DMVs. I haven't been inside the DMV in Washington in 10 years because it's all automated. But another frustrating experience with government or bureaucracy is when you need them to be inefficient. You need them to say, you don't fit the rules, and that's okay. You need people not to behave algorithmically. You need them to behave in a meaningfully inefficient way. And so when we think about government, when we think about technology, we need to think about how to have important efficiencies and meaningful inefficiencies, which means technology doing what technology is good at, and people doing what people are good at. As my dear friend and teacher, Angela Blanchard, said earlier today, change begins with the first new question. And the new question that we have to ask with cities and technology is, how does any particular technology support human flourishing? Cities are for people, and technology promises ease and efficiency, but those have never been the highest aspirations of democracy. Efficiency is one answer to the challenges of our cities, but it's not the only answer. And so I encourage all of you in this room, as you start to make your decisions about the technological future of Pittsburgh and all your communities, I want you to think about those other answers, because those are the ones that really highlight the value of cities and the value of people within them. So thank you very much.